In this tutorial, we're going to create this stunning 3D render, from modeling to texturing and lighting, step by step. But before we dive into Blender, let's check out the final product animation. Let's kick things off, and let's start with the keyboard base. Grab the default cube and scale it in X and Y axis. Make it big, make it small, whatever you like. Jump into edit mode and round off the corners with a bevel. I'm going with 6 edges because I'm skipping the subdivision surface. Now, inset the top face and push it down a bit to make it hollow. Quick tip, bevel the sharp edges to keep it looking clean. For the base, I'm keeping the bevel simple, just one segment and hitting the edges again for sharp finish. And there we go. Next up, we're going to use the shear tool to tilt the top part of the base. Don't use the rotation. Trust me, it'll mess up your mesh. Now, if you want to make this keyboard more detailed, like adding a PCB or some foam, you can just copy the bottom face. Duplicate it, separate by loose parts, and mess around however you like. Me, I'm skipping it, not really my vibe. Alright, now it's time to model the keycap. Start with a cube and scale the top face down, so it looks like a keycap. Next, move the bottom face up to match the height you want. Easy. Now, let's bevel the corners to make it smooth. Yep, don't forget the top face too. Why not all together? Because we want a top face to stay sharp. Inset the top face real quick so we don't get any shading issues. Tiny detail, big difference. Almost there. Select the bottom face, inset it, then extrude along Z and scale it down so it fits nicely inside the keycap. And yep, bevel those sharp edges again. Last but not least, add a little cut in the middle of the keycap. Trust me, this comes in handy later for making longer keys. And boom, keycap is done. Alright, time to fill up that lonely keyboard base. Let's slap on an array modifier and adjust the spacing. Keep it nice and tight. Now crank up the count to whatever you need. I'm rolling with 6. For the next row, just duplicate it, tweak the spacing, and change the count. I'm going with 3, but you could do your own thing. And finally, adjust the layout of the base so it lines up with the keycaps. Easy win. Now, let's build the top case of the keyboard. You can either duplicate the PCB mesh, or just grab the bottom face and move it up right where the keycaps end. Scale it so it matches the hollow space of the base. Easy. Now add a Boolean modifier. Use the keycaps as the object and apply it. Jump into edit mode and delete all those rectangular faces. Once that's done, just drop it over the base. And yep, align the keycaps too. Don't forget to rotate and fit everything nice and clean. And now, just grab a key switch model from anywhere and drop it into those empty holes we made. Next, apply the array modifier on the keycaps. Separate them by loose parts and delete the extras you don't need, and adjust the edges on some keycaps to make longer ones. That's exactly why we added that loop cut in the middle, so things don't look weird. Alright, let's wrap this up with a quick USB port. Add a cylinder, merge the middle vertices, give it a little bevel, and stretch the sides to match the length of the port. Now, grab a square face from the back, inset it, and scale it down for the inside part. Extrude it back to make a hollow space. Finally, add a Boolean modifier to the base body, use the port as the object, and drop it where you want. And yup, don't forget to apply that modifier. Alright, time for texturing. First, let's add a plane so we can actually see the keyboard more clearly. Next, scale the whole scene down to about the size of a real keyboard. That'll make things easier later for both texturing and lighting. And finally, throw in an HDRI just to preview the textures. You can use your own or stick with Blender's default ones. Totally up to you. Let's start with the base mesh. Add a new material and name it whatever you like. First, set up the color. Boost the metallic, add a little roughness. Remember, this is metal. Now, add a noise texture. Hold Ctrl plus Shift and click it to preview. Then hit Ctrl+T to bring up the mapping. Since we're texturing an object, switch the coordinates from generated to object. Now the fun begins. Crank the scale way up. Add a color ramp to control the intensity and push those black parts up. Duplicate the noise texture, scale it even higher than before, and again run it through a color ramp. Next, drop in a mix color node. Plug both ramps into it, switch the blend mode from mix to multiply, and boom, that's the look we're going for. You know what's next? Add a bump node. Connect the result to height and normal to the BSDF's normal. At first, you won't see any change. That's because the principal BSDF isn't hooked up to the output. Connect it. And yeah, it looks terrible, but don't worry. Just add an extra 0 to the bump distance, and suddenly it works. Now just tweak the distance and strength until you like the look. For the top case, I'll let you texture that on your own. It's really not a big deal, you guys can handle it. Now, let's move on to the keycaps. First, we'll make them rough. And guess what? The process is the same as the base. Add a noise texture, hook up object in the mapping, run it through a color ramp for intensity, and connect the output to a bump node. That's it. The rest is on you. Just play around with the settings until you get the roughness you like. Once you're happy with the bump, select all the other keycaps one by one. Remember to keep the textured one selected last. Then hit Ctrl+J to join them all together. Now it's gradient time. Add a gradient texture and connect color to color. At first, the gradient runs along the X direction, which we don't want. So, select the gradient texture, press Ctrl+T, and set the mapping to object. Add a separate XYZ node and connect the Y output to the vector input. And there we go, a clean gradient. You can tweak some settings to get the look you want. You can even try a color ramp, but honestly, it doesn't help much in this case. And now, the switches. Luckily, I already grabbed a switch model with different materials on it, so no need to assign everything by hand. Let's start with the housing. Drop the transmission weight to 0, lower the roughness, and give it just a little bit of alpha. Next up, the stem. Nothing fancy, just change the color and add a touch of metallic. And finally, the copper. Same deal. Change the color, add metallic, and you're good. Boom, switch is done. Before moving to the lighting, let's add an empty and scale it to fit the keyboard. Now, select all the parts of the keyboard, press Ctrl+P, and choose Keep Transform. This way, the empty acts like a handle. We can move, scale, or rotate the entire keyboard easily without messing up individual pieces. Now let's rotate and position the keyboard however we like. Try to give it that floating in the air vibe, almost like it's on display in a showroom. Now, let's set up some lights to make this keyboard really pop. First, add a plain mesh and place it on the right side of the keyboard. Give it an emission shader with a strength of 3 or higher. You'll instantly see that cinematic glow. Next, duplicate this plane, move it to the left side, and slightly rotate both planes towards the keyboard. For that extra sharp highlight, duplicate one more plane and place it behind keyboard. We don't actually want these planes to be visible in the render, so just go to the Object menu, then Visibility, then Uncheck Camera. Do this for all of them, so they only light the scene, not show up in the final shot. Finally, let's add a backdrop. Drop in another plane behind the keyboard, then add an area light pointing at it. Rotate it slightly, scale it out, and increase the power until you get a nice gradient wash across the background. Adjust it until it looks pleasing to your eye. Alright, finally, let's duplicate the keyboard and tweak its position and rotation a bit. Now, to make the keycaps float in the air, select the keycaps and hop into edit mode. Pick one face of the keycap you want to move, press Ctrl+L to grab the whole keycap, and move it wherever you like. Do this a few times until it looks good to your eyes. Once you're happy with the setup, just hit render, and boom, you'll get some really cool results like this.